what are they? Or shall I share the slide again? Attached. Which are we did in detail also with case studies about each one of them. Now, do you remember something? A free consent is something which you don't get from coercion, undue influence, fraud, misrepresentation, and mistake. So, a contract should be free from all these five aspects. What is coercion? What is consent itself in the first place? Agreeing to what is being offered and telling that yes, you will be going ahead with the contract. So, consent is said to be free when it is not caused or affected by either coercion or fraud or mistake or undue influence or misrepresentation. So, any contract which has all these five factors, that would be voidable, which means it is not a contract at all and you can revoke it. So, what is definition of coercion? It is committing or threatening at a knife point or forcing him to sign an agreement. So, any agreement which is committed by threatening to commit any act, then it is forbidden by the Indian Penal Code 1860. Or whatever is the attempt that you attain to, like you threaten him, or at a knife point you ask him to sign an agreement, or you give him an other reason that if you do not sign this, then this would happen. So if this is a case, in that case also it leads to coercion, where you force him to sign a document or enter into a contract. That is voidable. Can any one of you read the example aloud? No one is there? Not you? I want to see how many of them are there in the class, that's why.
Ma'am,
Yes, please.
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am, shall I read it, ma'am?
Just the example.
Example: X,
Yes.
who owes Y rupees 10,000, threatens to kill Y if the latter does not release him, that is X, from the debt. Here, X uses coercion. Coercion.
Coercion. So what
Coercion.
is it? It is anyways a contract. Wherever the word threaten is applied, even that comes to a coercion. So in this case, he owes money to Y, and he obtained that if you do not clear the debt, then he I would not be able to clear the debt. So kindly sign in the contract. So here it is something which is arising from threat. That's why it would be called. It is a voidable contract. Now this can be initiated by any person, and also it will be directed against any person including a stranger. It is not necessary that it has to be from the persons who are to the parties. It can be from a stranger also, that he might be employed to kill a person. So even in that case it would be a agreement of coercion. So according to the law, any it says that it may or may not be enforced at a place where coercion is committed. So you can sue against the parties in the court. What is the implication of it? Is there are three implications. First is an agreement induced by coercion is voidable. That means it can be enforced by the party, whoever is forcing, whoever is threatening. It can be enforced by them, but not by the party using the coercion. Whoever, I hope this is clear to you. Only it can be voidable in case the person who is enforcing or who is threatening, he can be coerced, not by the other person who is the victim of it. And definitely, it is very important that that should be a proof. Otherwise, anyone could just say that yes, it was an act. Then it would not be justified. So there should be a proof attached showing that there was a threat or a force through which he has entered into a contract. Only then it can be voidable. Is that clear, students? What is the coercion? Keep in mind, it is by a threat or to commit anything which is forbidden by the law. Okay, we do have two more examples. Who would be the next person?
Ma'am,
No one else is present in the class. Only two of them. Vinay.
property unless you agree to sell your house to me for rupees 5,000. Y says, all right,
Hmm.
I shall sell my house to you for rupees 5,000. Do not kill my son or do not retain my wife's documents of title. X has employed coercion. He cannot therefore enforce the contract. However, Y can enforce the contract if he finds the contract to his benefits.
Okay, is it
Where
understood here? Wait. Where first one itself we will do it again, no? It is not yet complete. There is a contract whereas it is entered into by force that I will either kill the son or the documents which are given there that I would retain. I would not release that documents until he pays or he agrees to sell his house for rupees 5,000. What is the reply that Y says? He says okay for it, but do not harm any one of them, neither the documents nor my son for it. Now, what is this? This is, anyways, a coercion because it is a threat to kill his son and keep the documents on the basis of which he is asking him to sell the house. So, X has employed coercion over here, so he cannot therefore enforce the contract. However, the Y, the person who is forced for, he can enforce the contract if he finds the contract to his benefit. Is the second part clear? However, Y can enforce the contract if he finds the contract to his benefit. So, if it is beneficial for him, he can enforce it. Otherwise, he can make it as a void contract.
ma'am,
Clear? Yes, ma'am.
ma'am, actually, I didn't understand ma'am, because he's X is saying to Y that I shall kill your son or shall I not return the documents of title regarding your wife's
Mm,
property unless he agrees to
mm,
sell your house. See,
correct.
he's selling his house and he's saying that do not kill my son or do not retain my wife's documents of title. So he's benefiting of
Mm,
getting his son and his wife's document title, no, ma'am. So it can't be the contract to his
correct.
benefit, ma'am.
That is what I'm trying to tell you. That, however, he can enforce the contract if he finds the contract is to his benefit, where he is getting both the, like, the threat which was given to him is not implemented. So Y is benefited over here and he can
Ma'am,
sell the,
one doubt.
he can purchase. Hmm.
Ma'am, what does
Yes. What if?
enforce, ma'am? What?
Enforce means implementing, I guess.
Well, you want to know the meaning of enforce? He can enforce this. He can go ahead with the document. He can go ahead with the contract. He can enforce the contract. He can implement the contract if he finds the contract is to his benefit. So it is left to the option of the person who is affected. Here the coercive. Now at least it's clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's do with the second one, where a husband obtained a release deed from his wife and son under a threat of committing suicide, where they threat that they will commit suicide, and he is received the release deed. So the transaction was set aside on the ground of coercion. What is the threat which is giving here, that suicide being forbidden by the Indian Penal Code. So definitely it is by coercion. That's why this would also be a voidable. There is no benefit that he is going to get out of it. So it is a voidable contract as such. Are you able to differentiate between both the examples which is given? On the first step, in the first example, there is some benefit which can be derived of. In the second one, they cannot. So it is forbidden by the law itself. The action taken itself, committing suicide itself, it is set aside by the law. So it would not be taken into any consideration where there is any benefit derived. Clear? Okay.
Yes,
We do
ma'am.
two more example. A person to whom money has been paid or anything delivered under coercion must repay or return. And a transport company refused to deliver certain goods to the consignee unless he paid illegal charges for transferring the goods. Is this valid or not? There
Don't
are
know,
certain
ma'am.
there are certain illegal charges which he first refused to pay, because of which the transport company also told that it would not deliver the goods also. Now, since it was an important consignment, he said that yes, I would agree to pay the legal charges, whatever it is, kindly deliver the goods. Now, is it not the first one that we did, that it is benefited to the other party? In that case, is it valid or it is not valid? The solution is written here itself. He is entitled to recover the charges since it is illegal charges. That's why he can recover the transportation, whatever the charges that were charged to him. Just go through it once again and see that you are clear with all the four examples. All four are very different.
Ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am, that what does the third point is saying, ma'am? A person who money has been paid or anything delivered under coercion must repay or return.
Section law
7.
for that example. It is an
Example,
example.
ma'am.
Yeah, yeah. With all the three cases, what would be an influence? First, like threat or
Ma'am, your voice is
post step
breaking, ma'am.
task. Is it better now?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it better now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The coercion is something by force, threat to kill someone or to commit suicide, etc., that you use to enter into an agreement or a contract. What would be an undue influence? Influence, undue influence. When is it that you are influenced by someone else? Someone is overpowered you. Master and a servant example, principal and an agent example, seller and a buyer example. So, a contract is said to be induced by undue influence, where the relations that is existing between the parties are such that one of the parties is dominating the position of the other. Like the different examples that I gave you right now, a servant and a master, the person who is giving to a rent, a landlord and a rent, a debtor and a creditor, all these comes under the undue influence. So if you are using your power or your position, in that case it becomes an undue influence. So can I enforce a contract under undue influence? Will it be valid contract or between a promoter or a company, trustee and beneficiary, etc. So wherever the position, according to, as per the position, I force him to enter into a contract. That is also not from free consent of the other party that I am obtaining or I am asking him to enter into the contract. So even that would be a voidable contract. So a person is deemed to be in a position to dominate the will of the other when a person holding real or apparent authority over the other, like the master and the servant, the parent, and that is something personal, the guardian and the ward. Now, in the above relationship, under influence is presumed. You are getting it. Like in a rental agreement itself, the landlord enforces or forces him to. We'll do with an example for this.
Thank you for the link. Right only. What is Gabriel or something?
Ma'am, can you go to the previous slide?
Yeah, please one more time. So, you have to open up. Yeah. पहले कंप्लीट करना. But we will do two examples on this also. 18 years of age, spendthrift and a drunkard borrowed rupees 90,000 on a bond bearing compound interest at the rate of 2% per annum. It was held by the court that the transaction is unconscionable because he is a drunkard and during that time he is entered into an agreement. So the rate of interest charged being an exorbitant, he sued him against and he take it as a voidable contract. You should be in your conscious mind when you do it. Next is the object must be to take undue advantage under the case of undue influence. That is in the case of an undue influence. That is the free consent is not applied. So the object must be the plain object must be to take undue advantage of the other party, where the person is in a position to influence the will of the other in getting consent. The object is changed. Now, as we said earlier, all these in the agreements or contracts which we enter into are voidable, but there is a necessity that you will have to prove that there should be some proof which proves that it is through some domination that you have entered into the agreement. Otherwise, it would not be agreed. In case a plaintiff, who is a plaintiff?
A person who
Anyone?
has suffered or the person who files the complaint against the corporation.
Super. A person who has suffered or who has filed a complaint is known as a plaintiff. He wants to avoid the contract. So, on the ground of undue influence, he must be able to prove that only based on proof. You cannot just simply everything in the law. You will have to have a proof, only then it will be a voidable contract. I hope you are able to understand the difference between coercion and undue influence. I don't think this is readable. Difference between coercion and undue influence. There are three major differences. One, in the case of coercion, the relation between the parties is not necessary. It can be a third person also who can give a threat or to commit suicide or any action. Whereas it's not in the case of undue influence. Here there is a relationship between both the parties. Second one, it is a physical threat. The aggrieved party is compelled to make the contract against his will, that is coercion. But undue influence, it is a mental threat, it is not a physical threat at all. That's another major difference. And the third one is it is voidable at the, as we did one thing. How do I say that it is voidable at the option of aggrieved party? Hmm. There was one difference that I said that if it is to be under in the case of coercion, if it is to the benefit of the party, then it would not be a voidable. Like in the case of the do not kill my son, and the documents will also be released. In that case, he is not facing any harm, and then he can sell his property. So it is voidable at the option of the aggrieved party. If he is having any benefit, then it would he could he would not go back, or he would not go to he would not sue the aggrieved party at all. So where here the consent is forcefully, you have no other option because you are under an influence. It is compulsory. It is that you will have to enter into the contract or agreement. But yes, if you do have a proof, then you can make it as a voidable contract. Go through it clearly between the coercion and undue influence and see that you are able to understand it, student. Next, we will move to what is fraud. Can you also tell any other difference which can happen between coercion and undue influence? When I say it's a threat or to kill someone, it is a crime. So it amounts to crime which is punishable by the court. Whereas undue influence is not a crime. You can oppose it also, or you do not have to agree to whatever is in whatever, however you are forced to enter into the agreement. Shall we move further? Okay, last class, one of you gave me an example for fraud. Does anyone remember? Of an online company selling something which was fraud. What is that? Okay, what generally is fraud? We have come across this word very often. Am I audible, students? Okay. Last class we gave an example of a case of fraud. None of us remember it.
No, ma'am.
There was a company which sold some articles online, but on the delivery there was something else which was received. So when a party to an agreement, there is a misrepresentation, there is a false representation of the fact deliberately, intentionally, then it amounts to fraud. I repeat, when in an agreement there is a false representation of the fact, I know that it is wrong, but I still represent it as correct. So, intentionally, if I tell that it is correct, which is false, it will deceive the other party and it amounts to fraud. So, what all does fraud include? Any fact which is not disclosed properly, concealment of a fact, a promise made with any intention of performing it but you don't perform it, any other act titled to deceive, that is, you don't do it at all as you promised, and any such act or omission as the law specifically declares it as a fraudulent activity. So, any act committed by a party to a contract or as per his convenience or by his agent or anyone, the main motive is to do not disclose the fact or represent something which is correct, they represent it wrong. That amounts to fraud. I know that it is correct, and after that. Now, what would happen if, in case, suppose you order something online and you do not get the as described in the online, like the whatever the descriptions are there, it's not according to the descriptions which is mentioned. In that case, what would happen? What is the option which is left to the aggrieved party who is the sufferer? What can he do? Shall we end the class, students? Contact customer care. What will we tell? What? No, it does not work like this. Anyone else? What can I do if the facts are, or in the case of fact, what is it that I can do? There are three options which are available. Okay, someone is telling.
Ma'am, you can raise a complaint with the company from where the we have purchased the product, and if that doesn't help, you can go to consumer court and sue the company for
Yeah,
making putting falseful description and selling the products.
exactly as simple as that. That is all. You will file a complaint against it. First, you will call up the company and then raise your complaint against them. If they are able to resolve it, fine. If they are not able to resolve it, then we will have a proof that this is what the description is, this is what we have received, and we will file a complaint against them and claim for damages. Very simple. Is that clear, students? If in case of a firstly, what is fraud and what can the affected party do in case of a fraud? Just you be practical and then you could have answered it. Fraud is something misrepresentation of the fact itself intentionally. I know that it is wrong and then I sell it. So it does not match with the requirements which are mentioned. That amounts to fraud. So in that case, there is three options as I told you now in the case of purchasing. You can file complaint against the company directly and see that there is some action taken by them. If not, then you would file a complaint in the court and claim for damages. Whatever damages, the expenses that you have incurred, you can claim for that. Is that clear? Okay. So we finished with what is coercion, what is undue influence, and what is fraud. Are you all clear with this, students? We'll stop with this today.
Yes, ma'am.
For that alone. Any doubts in this? I give